Hey everyone, I am back today with chapter 6 of our book, Escape from Alcatraz. This chapter is called Hiding in Plain Sight. Soon both the Anglins were free of their cells too. They and Morris laid their dummy heads in bed with blankets wadded up to look like bodies. Then they crawled through the door in the back of their cells and scouted the corridor and ventilator shaft. They climbed the pipes, which formed a sort of ladder, as well as some wooden scaffolding that had been installed for plumbers and electricians to work on. Besides the more than 3 dozen raincoats they had obtained by this time, they also had a sizable stash of other helpful items: twine, picks made from spoon handles, a flashlight, files, and more, that they stored on top of the cell block and in the corridor. But there was a problem. In order to work on their rafts, which were going to be 6 feet wide by 14 feet long, they would need more space. There was an open area on top of the cell block that would be perfect for working. However, only ceiling-high metal bars ran along the side. A guard in the gun gallery could easily see anyone who went up there. In order to remove the roof vent to access the vent shaft, and certainly to work on their rafts, they would have to be able to use that area. West came up with a plan. West worked in maintenance and often did jobs such as painting and cleaning different areas of the prison. He told cell house officer John Jerry Herring that he had been painting the area above the cell block and noticed it was very dirty. Herring agreed and sent West to clean it up. Once there, West deliberately swept a lot of dust over the edge. Dust and paint flakes sifted down the front of the cells to the floor below, causing a great mess. Before long, Lieutenant Maurice Ordway discovered the mess on the bottom floor and ordered Officer Herring to have it cleaned up. But there was one problem. West wasn't finished cleaning up top. What could be done to prevent more debris from falling? West suggested hanging old blankets from the bars above to prevent the dust from going over the edge. Herring liked the idea and ordered blankets from the laundry. When Herring finished his shift that day, he was off for 2 days. Knowing this, West took advantage of the situation by talking with J.W., who worked in the laundry. West told J.W. to stall sending the blankets until the next day and to send all the blankets he could. The next morning, when Herring was off, 2 big hampers of blankets arrived in the cell house. West told the officer in charge that Herring had ordered them. The officer confirmed it, and right away, West took the blankets to the top of the cell block and began to hang them. There were 80 blankets altogether, enough to completely block the view of the top of the cell block. Morris and the Anglin brothers were impressed with West's shrewdness, and a little unsure. Would the guards really let those blankets stay there? It was an obvious security risk. They decided not to go to work up top until they knew it would last. So they waited for Officer Herring to return. When he did, he looked with surprise at the row of blankets and asked West if he really needed all of them. West cleverly responded that it was the amount he was given, and he assumed Herring had requested that many. Shortly after that, Lieutenant Ordway saw the blankets and immediately ordered them to be removed. Herring told West to take them down, but West had the one last idea up his sleeve. West used his unique people skills and questioned why Lieutenant Ordway would have the right to make an order that went against what Lieutenant Herring had already okayed. Herring thought about it and went back to Lieutenant Ordway to discuss the problem. West, Morris, and the Anglins did not know what they said. Whatever words were exchanged, the result was exactly what West had hoped for, and the blankets stayed. That night, just as they did every night, the men stood at the front of their cells for the 9:30 p.m. head count. Once everyone was counted, Frank Morris and Clarence Anglin pulled out their fake grills and got their dummy heads from the utility corridor. Once they set the dummies in place in their beds, they squeezed through the doors and moved the fake grills back in place. Anyone walking past their darkened cells would see that nothing was out of place. The 2 men quickly scaled the pipes to the top level behind the tent of blankets. They inspected the roof vent and figured out that they would need to remove the steel bars welded into the frame within the shaft. More than an hour passed while they were up there, meaning a guard had gone past their cells on his hourly round. The dummies worked perfectly. Over the next couple of nights, they removed the ventilator grill and fashioned simple clamps to hold it in place while they were away. They were so careful, they made fake screw heads out of soap and set them where the real screws had been. They realized that one big raft would be too clumsy to carry on the night of the escape, so they changed the plan to 2 smaller boats. One for Clarence and J.W. Anglin, and one for Frank Morris and Alan West. Furthermore, the pontoons could be built here on the landing above the cell block, but the boats couldn't be fully assembled until they pushed everything up through the vent shaft. They would have to do the final assembly on the roof. Each night, when the men finished their work, they hid their raincoats and other materials up in the vent shaft and replaced the grill. There was no sign whatsoever that they had been up there. Another problem to be solved was the fact that there were bars inside the roof vent before they reached the rain hood on top. The bars ran parallel across the circular frame. They were made from hardened steel that would not bend. West stole an electric hair clipper from the barber shop. Morris then converted the clipper into a drill. He and Clarence rigged an electric circuit from one of their cells to power it, but the drill wasn't strong enough to cut through the steel. Next, West stole a vacuum cleaner motor by arranging for a distraction in the kitchen area. One inmate hit another over the head, and while the guards attended to the fight, West smuggled out the vacuum motor and got it to his cell. Clarence Anglin and Morris converted the motor into a drill, but this one was too noisy. It sounded like a vacuum cleaner when they turned it on. Finally, Morris hit on an idea that worked. Inspecting the wheel of bars one night with his homemade flashlight, he noticed that the outside ring of the wheel was embedded in the concrete with regular bolts. These bolts were made of soft metal rather than the reinforced steel. It would not be hard to cut with a file. Once they cut the bolts, they could push the entire ring up out of the shaft. After that, it would be simple to pop the rain hood off the top of the shaft and climb out. By now, time was getting tight. The blankets would surely be coming down soon. They wanted to make their move before that happened, and the rumors spreading about their escape were becoming more and more abundant. Somebody was sure to let the secret out, either by accident or on purpose. The men had been planning, digging, building rafts, and assembling materials for months now. According to Clarence Carnes, it was a miracle they had not yet been discovered. On Monday, June 11th, 1962, West came by the library and said hello to Carnes. Then he passed by again. Carnes later claimed he knew something was unusual. "What's up?" he asked West the next time he passed. "Nothing much," West said. But Carnes could see that he was excited about something. And finally, West could keep the secret no longer. "Oh yeah," he said. "I forgot one little item. Tonight, we see the moon." Carnes was thrilled. He wasn't going to see the moon, but the thought of his friends breaking through the vent and getting away gave him a surge of hope. If the men escaped, Carnes would have played a role in helping to break the rock. He felt dizzy with excitement. The 2 men wished each other luck, and West walked out of the library. It was the last time they would ever speak to each other. That night, Carnes lay in his bed and listened to the familiar sounds of the cell block. He knew it would be hard for him to sleep. There was too much to think about. So now the big escape is coming, so we'll see what happens next in chapter 7. See ya!